Hey everyone, I'm Steve from GamersNexus.net, and I'm here at the Graphics Technology Conference 2016, GTC 2016, as put on by NVIDIA. But I'm here to talk about NVIDIA and AMD collectively right now because there's some interesting stuff that we've sort of thought through while here. And just before diving into that, let me point out this awesome dude on the wall behind me. So where obviously I'm in a hotel room, not the normal set, and that, I guess, is the indication of luxury that we live in while traveling for conventions. But here's the thing. So this is the cool stuff. Pascal was shown off in a big way today at the keynote, and you can see that in our previous content on the website and the channel. And the main item was the Tesla P100 GPU. So P100 is the first major Pascal GPU that was really talked about in a critical way by NVIDIA in any way sort of beyond top level. And Tesla is, the P100 Tesla is not meant for consumers. It's not a GeForce product. It will never be a GeForce product, but these supercomputing devices are on architectures that predicate sort of the eventual arrival of GeForce and consumer cards. So it is an important product to at least look at or understand at a top level. Tesla P100 is shipping for Q1 2017. The announcement is expected for Q4 2016 through the OEMs. So OEMs would be Dell, HP, IBM, and Cray. Those are the ones who will be shipping it immediately with their sort of high-end devices. So that's the timeline for high-end Pascal. That does not mean that there won't be a consumer-level release of Pascal before then, and there probably will be, just based on speculation and what we're used to with the industry. Here's what's interesting. AMD has a large window right now to start making a pretty serious comeback in terms of market share. Whatever you think of their numbers in terms of FPS, that's all obviously objective. You can go look it up. We've done the testing ourselves. But whatever you think of the numbers, whether you are in one camp or the other, the one thing that really can't be overlooked right now is that AMD is sort of rising in API performance with the new APIs. So DirectX 12, Vulkan, they're doing pretty well there right now, and a lot of that is thanks to the asynchronous compute architecture that they have. That does not mean that NVIDIA can't outperform them. I'm really not speaking to that right now, but what it does mean is that in the very least, they're starting to look good, and if you like them or not, AMD has a very small percentage of the global market share right now for gaming, so they're in a bad spot in terms of just sort of global dominance of the market. NVIDIA, last I checked, was more than 65%. They may be as high as 70% now of the market for GeForce cards. So it's important for AMD to start making moves if they really want to stay in this market. And obviously, we would all love them to stay in the market because competition is the only reason anything improves, the only reason prices are reasonable. And both these companies, AMD and NVIDIA, and if you look outside of them, Intel included, and even ARM, and ARM doesn't even really compete in desktop. They don't compete in x86. All these semiconductor and silicon companies, they drive gaming innovation. They work with the engine developers. ARM has worked with Epic. Again, not even really x86, but they do it. And that drives graphics technology. It improves the engine tech at a lower level. So even if you don't care about this super best realistic graphics, it does still improve performance on low-end devices and make things more accessible. So it's very important that AMD stays in the game, and they do make some good GPU products right now. And because of this Pascal sort of, I don't know if it's a delay or just a really long timeline of development, but because Pascal is taking so long to get out to consumers, AMD has a really good opportunity to start making moves with Polaris and with Navi. So here's a quick thing about Polaris I think a lot of people don't understand. Polaris is more of a stepping stone to Navi, which is the one that people really should care a lot about. Not to say Polaris isn't worth caring about, but Polaris is making big moves to 14 nanometer FinFET. I believe so NVIDIA and AMD are both moving down to 14 and to 16 nanometer FinFET transistors, process node. And this is a move from 28 nanometers. That's a massive reduction, and what that means, if you don't know, is an increase in performance per watt. So the watt draw will, if it remains the same, the performance will be much higher, or if performance maybe marginally improves, then in the very least we get a wattage reduction that is somewhat significant and obviously good for everyone. So, and also good for heat, by the way, that lowers the thermals. So with that said, the FinFET transistors, the reason they're called FinFET, the fin, F-I-N, it sort of literally means it's shaped like a fin, like a shark fin. So the transistor's got this, it's almost like a bucket, where it's like that, and it helps prevent things like power leakage, and that's what improves a lot of the performance per watt. That said, the move to this smaller architecture, the processing node, is critical, and the gains will certainly be, unless something else goes terribly wrong, the gains will be pretty substantial in at least the power department. And with Navi, AMD is going to be running HBM2. With Polaris, it's not HBM2, but I can tell you it's probably HBM1 or GDDR5 or GDDR5X. I know that only rules out one thing. So Polaris, probably GDDR5 or 5X, maybe the high end is HBM, I don't know. I'm not clear on that, but Pascal will be HBM2. And HBM2 is a 1 terabyte per second bandwidth, theoretical maximum throughput memory architecture, and that is 4096 bits wide. That is a massive bus. With HBM1 is, I believe, 512 gigabytes per second-ish on the Fury X. It's 128 gigabytes per second per stack, so it depends on how many stacks they have. But that's what HBM1 is. So even moving from that, this is going to be a pretty big deal. Polaris is due sometime soon. I don't have a timeline on that is anything more than what you guys know, but Polaris is looking like somewhere in the next few months, if we're lucky, before August. If AMD can start shipping before NVIDIA, it's going to be really good for them, because AMD right now, they are looking pretty good in asynchronous compute benchmarks. Pascal will definitely improve NVIDIA's performance in DirectX 12, in Vulkan, and that's going to start threatening AMD's potential. I don't know if it's really a lead, but it'll threaten AMD's minimally market perception in the immediate future when Pascal comes out. That's sort of the threat to AMD, is at the very least their market perception with the DX12 and Vulkan new API performance. So if AMD can push this newer architecture, which will definitely further asynchronous processing capabilities, it'll have better performance per watt, which is where they've really struggled, and the Fury X did improve that a lot, but it still was behind NVIDIA's equivalent devices. They've got a good window. They can really make things happen, and we've been very critical of AMD the last few years for their GPUs. The CPU is a bit different story. Some of the CPUs are pretty damn good. The A80K, for example, pretty good CPU, less than $100, but we're not talking about that today. Their drivers were pretty bad, not a full generation ago, but the 300 series, I was very critical of it, of the 380 and the 390 launch. Those improved massively since then, and we've said this several times, where AMD's drivers have actually gotten pretty good now, and their software has improved with Radeon settings. They're on a pretty big upswing, and Samsung in some ways has bailed out AMD to help create this upswing, or at least perpetuate it, and that is because Samsung is helping with fabricating some of the new products. So that's a big deal. Samsung is a big vendor. If they have an interest in AMD, that's good for AMD. They certainly need alliances, because Global Foundries has been their fab, and if Samsung can fabricate things too, then they're in good shape. Just sort of quick recap here, AMD is a fabless processor manufacturer, so it's unlike Intel, where they own their own fabrication plants. AMD got rid of theirs a long time ago. They used Global Foundries. Now they're using Samsung in addition to that. So that's a big deal. So I just wanted to bring up that discussion point where AMD is in a good position right now, and a lot of that is to do with the architecture, the reduction in fab process, the process node, where NVIDIA and AMD are both moving to smaller sizes from 28 nanometers to 14 and 16. Whoever gets there first will have pretty big gains, and that's important for market presence and market perception. And then the other thing, of course, is the new APIs, where AMD and NVIDIA are both definitely working to improve asynchronous computation of commands as they come down the pipe, and that will correspond to work better with DirectX 12 and with Vulkan and things like that, which are growing APIs in the gaming market space. Right now, I would say definitely pay close attention to the launch schedule for Polaris, for Navi, and for Pascal. And probably for, in terms of benchmarking, you should be looking at a lot of new API benchmarks for these cards, not just traditional DX11 benchmarks. And we'll be running both of those, APIs and DX11, so we'll be running all three. And obviously that's sometime in the future, but check back the channel for that as things roll out. So let me know what you think. Post a comment below what your thoughts are for AMD's current window of opportunity, I suppose, what you think about the Pascal architecture versus the new Polaris or Navi architectures. Interested to read what you think, and maybe we'll talk about it in the next Ask GN episode. But as always, if you like this content, hit the Patreon link in the post-roll video to help us out directly. Post a comment below, and I'll see you all next time.